have Pushmita Sahu. Again, she is doing consistently well. And now coming to the top positions. So on third position, we have Nitin Dalmia and two people from Jaipur. Can somebody name them? Difficult question पूछ लिया मैंने. कोई बताएगा जयपुर से कौन दो लोग हैं?
अर्पिता एंड
नहीं दो सर, नहीं चार हैं सर अभी तो.
नहीं हाँ चार है ना. तो
अनुपमा.
भैया कौन से दो थर्ड पोजीशन पे हैं?
अनुपमा.
अनुपमा इज वन राइट.
अर्पिता
नहीं है. अभिषेक ही बचा क्योंकि आतिश का तो नाम ले लिया मैंने. अरे भाई ये जयपुर वालों इकट्ठे बैठ के क्वेश्चन तो नहीं आंसर करे थे?
सर मैंने तो एक दिन बाद किए थे सर.
अच्छा तो पूछ के करा होगा.
हाँ सर ये हो सकता है सर. एक्चुअली क्वेश्चन अनुपमा ने बनाए थे ना.
अच्छा तो शेयर किए थे क्या तेरे से?
नहीं सर.
अच्छा एनीवेज on second position okay so third position score is 92 and second position we have with a score of 96. Even 96 is on second and I'm really happy to announce her name. I think she is again appearing for the first time, so I'm not asking you guys to make a guess. Anshika Jain. Anshika, you are there?
Yes, sir.
कहाँ हो?
Hello.
Anshika.
Yes, sir. हाँ जी sir.
Congratulations, Anshika.
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic performance. Keep it up. And I'm really happy that we are seeing new people coming on the top. It shows that people are taking it very seriously. And now coming for the top position, भाई इस बार तो जयपुर ने तो धमाल कर दिया है. तो आज जयपुर में मिठाई बंटनी चाहिए. तो अब गेस तो कर ही लोगे आप लोग कि who is there on the top? डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन है क्या?
एक ही लड़की तो बची.
अर्पिता with a score of 98. Oh my God. देखना पड़ेगा कौन सा क्वेश्चन गलत किया उन्होंने. अर्पिता
क्वेश्चन गलत ना हो सर, कि आंसर सही हो, क्वेश्चन गलत ना हो सर.
कोई बात नहीं, वो सभी के लिए सेम है. अर्पिता, she is not there. यार ये मेरे पास रिक्वेस्ट मत भेजो यार, इसको लोगों के पास आने दीजिए. अर्पिता you are there?
I think that she is on leave.
अच्छा हाँ वो 10 दिन की छुट्टी पे है अर्पिता. That's right. आज से छुट्टी पे. Anyway, so fantastic performance. और उसकी मुझे लग रहा है कि उसको जल्दी दिल्ली बुलाना पड़ेगा अब, क्योंकि I can't let Jaipur top always. So we'll call her to Delhi office now. So now coming to today's topic, and before I come to today's topic, I'll request all of you to make suggestions for the next class. It is better that we discuss it here only. So if somebody can give a suggestion on the topic which should be discussed in the next class.
Sir, can we have some soft topic rather than more academic?
बताइए, soft बता दीजिए.
Sir, if some MBA student can take the business etiquettes on business etiquettes, or you can take on.
I note down the suggestions. We'll decide on the faculty later on. Let's decide on the topic first, right? So one is very important, business etiquettes.
The other suggestion is on sir business ethics.
Business ethics, okay. Next. और कोई? किसी के पास कोई सजेशन नहीं है? नीतू, रेखा मैम?
Sir, how about in case we take a topic on the equity part of it, although we don't have much of equity transactions which we are doing, but there's a lot of transactions which have been happening on the DC side and the private equity front.
Okay, private equity. ठीक है.
Valuation.
जी.
Along with that, we can see valuation of startup company or something. If company is new and greenfield is there, then if we have to do valuation or something related with that.
Valuation of startups, okay.
And while business ethics, we can also discuss relationship management with banker, PSU banks specifically.
Okay, PSU bank relationship. This is an interesting topic. PSU bank relationship. Wonderful. I think this is an interesting topic.
I would suggest Rekha ma'am to take this session.
नहीं PSU bank relationship तो ज्योति जी ले सकते हैं.
Then we'll decide on the faculty later on. अभी पहले टॉपिक जरा 8-10 लिस्ट हो जाएंगे तो आगे के लिए आसानी हो जाएगी मेरे लिए.
हाँ, अब टॉपिक्स खत्म. वैल्यूएशन का आप बोल रहे थे ना कि एक अच्छे से वापस से लेना पड़ेगा क्लास वैल्यूएशन का.
हाँ ठीक है. वैल्यूएशन ऑफ स्टार्टअप्स एक मैंने नोट किया है और वैल्यूएशन पे और काफी सारे टॉपिक्स हो सकते हैं. मतलब वैल्यूएशन पे आई थिंक 3-4 महीने तक क्लास लगातार भी हो सकती है, ऐसी कोई बात. डिपेंडिंग ऑन कितना. तो वैल्यूएशन पे 1-2 क्लास और हो सकती हैं. There are so many things in valuation. I think we have now sufficient number of suggestions to decide upon which class in the coming weeks. So today's topic is about the one-time restructuring. Take a minute, huh? Today's topic is about one-time restructuring. So we all know that our economy, or rather the world economy, is going through a very difficult phase because of a very unprecedented situation of coronavirus that appeared from some part of the world, and it has spread like like the viral does always. So the virus became viral and throughout the world, and everybody is feeling a impact on that because just to control that invisible virus, our government had to take certain steps which were really very hard, and we went through lockdown situations, and the industrial activity almost came to a halt. And due to that, now since we are in a global economy, and we do understand all the sectors are interlinked with each other, so almost all the sectors are feeling the heat, except for few, maybe 2 to 5% of the sectors who have been not been impacted, or rather positively impacted. But we are concentrating more on the sectors which have been negatively impacted, and they had this serious cash flow crunch situation because of last 6 or 7 month period. So RBI has come up with a scheme wherein bankers could help these people ease out their cash flows based on the kind of stress they have faced, or kind of financial loss they have faced during these COVID periods. So this one-time restructuring is only and only for the COVID stress, and not for the stress which was pre-existing. So that is the logic. for a pre-existing stress, there is already a circular in RBI which deals with the pre-existing COVID stress. So if any company doesn't fall in, anyways, Sunil ji will be taking that. So I'm not going into technicalities. And further, in last three classes, we were discussing the ratio analysis. And in this one-time restructuring also, there is an importance of ratio analysis. And since we discussed that, ratio analysis is driven by the objective, or rather the person who's looking at those financial statements, and depends on what kind of decision he has to make. So here, since the decision maker is banker, so he is more concerned with the liquidity and the solvency ratios. So I think those are the main ratios which have been recommended by Kamath committee. So I think Sunilji will be taking care of both circulars, the one that outlined the restructuring scheme, and also the Kamath committee, which circular on Kamath committee, which recommended certain ratios, which were some sector specific also. Right, Sunilji, you will be covering that?
Yes, sir, I will be covering. I'm trying to cover everything, whatever has been there. And I would request participants to be more inquisitive so that it is a learning process for entire community rather than just a one-way traffic from my side.
Fantastic. So since I have to go out for a meeting, so I'll just excuse me for that. So Sunilji, you please take over, and you may please conclude the session also. Don't wait for me. So I had a limited agenda of announcing the results, and as well as taking suggestions for coming week's classes. So I think that has been fulfilled. So thank you so much for everyone for joining. Now I think we have a decent attendance of 44. So I assume this session will be fruitful. And I am missing this session, so I'll go through the recording also. So for questions also, Sunilji, you can ask people to help you out. Then you can send those questions to me. Thank you so much. Have a good learning session and a fantastic day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, friends, I'm just trying to share my screen. In the meantime, I'll like to share that on June 7, 2019, the Reserve Bank of India came up with the guidelines for restructuring of loans. However, as Chandiji shared with us that we had an unprecedented situation where the economies world over were affected adversely, and though they were already under stress because of this virus situation where the lockdown continued, and even today we are finding a lot of spaces where lockdown is there, and there is a lot of uncertainty in a lot of sectors, particularly hospitality sector, the health sector, healthcare. I can tell you there is a lot of uncertainty. So in these situations, it is the RBI came up with a sort of Sanjeevani to take the businesses out of this tough situation, and a circular was issued by Reserve Bank of India on 6th of August. This is very particular to understand that this has come with the background of the circular of 7th June. So the 7th June circular is the basis for the new circular. I'll share my screen and then I'll go through. I would request participants to be more inquisitive. I will try to answer whatever questions are there. And if it is not there, we'll work out and we'll definitely share the responses. Is my screen visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there are, as Chandiji told us, there are two portions of this total scheme. The scheme was issued by Reserve Bank of India on 6th of August, wherein they advise that there will be a committee of experts, which would be headed by Mr. Kamath, KV Kamath, the ex-chairman of ICICI Bank. They will be coming with the financial parameters. So to that extent, this circular of August 6th was, I can say, deficient, and which was the deficiency was fulfilled or completed by the committee report, which was again, there was only recommendations. Based on the recommendations, RBI again came up with a circular on 7th of September, in giving the prescribed parameters which are to be adopted in the financial plan or resolution plans. Now, as we discussed, this again is applicable to all financial institutions. In this case, the reference date is March 1st, 2020. It means the account should be standard as on March 1st, 2020. Now, standard has a very broad connotation. The account up to 90 days default remains standard, though it is categorized as SMA 0, SMA 1, SMA 2, but it remains standard up to 90 days default. In this case, the scheme states that the accounts should be standard and the default should not be more than 30 days. It should be only up to 30 days default. Only then this scheme can be invoked. Second important dates is the invocation date. The invocation date is where the lenders and the borrowers agree to invoke the scheme and go for a resolution under this scheme, but this scheme should be invoked on or before 31st December 2020. It means if the lenders and the borrowers agree to invoke the scheme on or after 1st of January 2021, this scheme is invalid as of date, unless and until it is extended by the RBI. The important date of 31st December 2020. So the lenders have to agree on implementation of the scheme, and we will discuss in the later slides, in the later part of our discussion, deliberation, that how the invocation will be happening. Third is, what is the expiry date? There are 3 expiry dates are there mentioned in the scheme. One is the 31st December 2020 if the invocation is not happening. 180 days from the invocation date if the resolution plan is not implemented. Now, for example, the scheme has been invoked for a stressed account on 30th September 2020. Within 180 days, the resolution plan has to be implemented. It means by, I think, 26th or 27th March of 2021, the resolution plan should be implemented. If it is not implemented, the scheme expires. Now, the restructuring cannot be done under this scheme, and the benefits which are available to the lenders and the borrowers under this scheme will no more be available. Similarly, if there are multiple lenders, the scheme mandates signature of ICA, the intercreditor agreement. Now, if the scheme is invoked and within 30 days of invocation, the ICA is not signed by the requisite participation. Now, everybody may not be agreeing to sign the ICA, but the scheme requires that at least 60% of the numbers and 75% of of the value, 60% of the value and 75%, I'm sorry, I'll just discuss this, I'm missing on that. A requisite participation is required for executing, to be executed to bring that, yes, the ICA has been signed. Now, what are the key highlights of this scheme? It enables the lenders for resolution of eligible accounts while continuing or upgradation as standard. The very important factor in all other restructuring schemes which have been issued by Reserve Bank of India, the account becomes NPA once the restructuring scheme is implemented. So this is a very, very unique feature of this scheme. The account, if it is a standard on the date of implementation, it will continue to be standard. And if for some reason after 1st March 2020, if the account has become an NPA, on implementation of this scheme, the account will be restored and upgraded to standard. Again, by 1st March 2020, as we discussed earlier, the account has to be standard as on 1st March 2020. But for any reason, if the account becomes an NPA during 1st March 2020 and the implementation of the scheme, then it will be upgraded. The second characteristics of this scheme is that it is available only to borrowers having stress caused by COVID-19. This is again a very important feature wherein we will discuss that the Reserve Bank of India has given ample powers to the lenders to have a board approved policy to define how for the respective borrowers the stress is caused by COVID-19. If the stress is due to COVID-19, only then this scheme can be invoked. So that's the third point, is that requires lending institution to have board approved policy for diligence, due diligence, as well as eligibility. Now, eligibility again, they have to understand in what situation they will consider that this is a COVID-19 related stress, and whatever due diligence they have to carry out to invoke this scheme or restructure the accounts under this scheme. Now, for multiple banking, wherever there is a multiple lenders, intercredited agreement is must, so that it makes it mandatory that intercredited agreement should be there. Now, the participation may not be 100%, and it also incentivizes the signatories to the intercredited agreement. If a lender is a signatory to the intercredited agreement, it will have to make a lower provision, which we will discuss later, as compared to the non-signatories to the intercredited agreement. As we discussed, the original circular came up that there will be an expert committee which will be coming up with the financial parameters, including center specific points, which have been now been notified by the Reserve Bank of India on 7th of September, which are mostly based on recommendation of expert committee. It is not entirely based on the recommendation, but most of the recommendations have been accepted and notified by the Reserve Bank. One more unique feature that is there in the scheme is that any resolution plan which was having original exposure of more than 1500 crores or more, then it will be reviewed by the expert committee. This expert committee will also do the reviewing work of the resolution plan. Again, the advantages and disadvantages we will discuss later, and also it requires any resolution plan with more than 100 crores of exposure to be having a credit evaluation, independent credit evaluation by a rating agency. Another unique feature that I could understand from this scheme is it permits additional funding. Normally in stress situation or restructuring situation, the additional funding is not preferred, but it permits. What happens that because there is a liquidity problem with the borrowers, the lenders can infuse some more funds to have a sustainable restructuring for the borrowers. A very unique feature is this: if some lenders, the lenders have agreed for additional funding, there will be an escrow mechanism wherever there is a multiple banking is there. The escrow manager have the enforcement rights for timely disbursement of credit facilities by the LIs. Now, why this is very important? A lender may have sanctioned that 100 crores to a borrower, and there is a schedule to the disbursement. However, due to their administrative issues or whatever issue, some of the lenders don't disburse that their share on a timely basis. This may affect the entire restructuring plan or the resolution plan, because the money whatever has been disbursed is not adequate to resolve the stress. In this case, the escrow managers have been provided with the enforcement power for timely disbursement. Though there will be, I can tell you that there may be some administrative issues, how those powers will be utilized, but at least the powers have been given. Now, this scheme has certain ineligible borrowers as well. What is the eligibility? Eligibility is, other than these, the scheme is the borrowers are eligible. One is micro, small and medium enterprises, which we call as MSME, having aggregate exposure of less than or equal to 25 crores. They are governed by separate circular of RBI. That's why they are not covered under this scheme. The farm credit, loan to primary agricultural credit societies, farmers service credit societies, large Adivasi multipurpose societies for on lending to agriculture sector. Exposure to financial service providers, exposure to central state government bodies and body corporates, and exposure to HFCs, subject to certain conditions which we will discuss later. Other than these lenders, all lenders are eligible and all borrowers are eligible under this scheme. Now we'll come to the resolution process. Any question till now? Okay.
So just a small question. अभी जो sector wise इन्होंने अभी allocation किया है, you know that these are the particular sectors which can avail this scheme. So what about the other sectors? उनके plan अभी हम लोग work out कर सकते हैं or we need to wait and watch?
Ma'am, though I will come later on, but I will just definitely like to answer this. See, they have not said any specific sector. They have said that the parameters for 26 sectors have been defined.
Right.
And they also say, the circular itself says, for other sectors, the banks are empowered to define the parameters.
Okay, so it's at the decision of the banker that if he wants to take up that particular sector or the parameters accordingly have to
Only
be
parameter, ma'am. Sector is sector. It is sector agnostic. Only thing is the
Okay.
parameters for that particular will be depending upon lenders. Now, when I will be discussing the some limitations of this circular. Then I
Right.
will also cover certain points. Definitely, I am parking that point for later discussion. But my understanding of things is this. A bank or a lead lender can decide for the for other sectors, whatever are not covered in this is 26.
Done.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any other question? I can. Otherwise, I'll proceed with the further slides. Now, coming to eligibility, as we were discussing some characteristics, the account should be standard as on 1st March 2020, and the default is not more than 30 days. The account should continue to be standard as on invocation date. Now, the account has to be maintained. For example, if there is some stress, and I want that it should be resolved as early as possible under this scheme, I have to continue to remain standard. Now, the 30 days condition is not there. The condition of 30 days was as on 1st March 2020. But up to invocation date, there can be a default up to 90 days. But not beyond 90 days. It should not be treated as NPA. The account should continue to be standard as on invocation date. How invocation will happen? Invocation happens when the lenders and the borrowers agree for proceeding with the resolution under this scheme. However, in case of multiple lending institutions, 75% by value of outstanding credit and 60% by number should agree for proceeding with the resolution plan. Only then the invocation will happen. Similarly, if an ICA is signed by 75% by value and 60% by numbers, it will be considered that the scheme has been invoked. Now, when we were discussing the intercreditor agreement, the lending institutions, LI means lending institutions, have to sign the ICA within 30 days of invocation, and it should be signed on minimum by 70% of value and 60% of number to make a valid ICA under the scheme. Lenders other than the LIs permitted to sign ICA. See, there may be lenders who are signing the ICA, but if they are not signing the ICA, they will be bound by terms. ICA to lay down the recourse available for disputing signatories also. The very important clause that you should not come to RBI if there is a dispute between the lenders on certain issues. The ICA itself should be comprehensive to cover such dispute resolution as well as information sharing, so that all lenders are at the same page on information part. Now, very important point is review and implementation. The resolution plan for the accounts having exposure greater than or equal to 1500 crores as on invocation date shall be vetted by expert committee set up by RBI. As we have discussed, the expert committee is already in place. They will be reviewing it. There are certain conditions that expert committee has said, which I will discuss at the end, but the expert committee will be reviewing. And I will also discuss what are the advantages, why it is very fruitful that such a review is done. The resolution plan of accounts having exposure of greater than or equal to 100 crores have a independent credit evaluation by one credit agency. Now, if we recall the discussion that we had earlier on the June 7, 2019 circular of restructuring, it stated that In certain cases, it is by one, and in other cases, there should be two credit rating agencies who will be assigning the RP4 rating for the resolution plan. Two deviations are there. One is, the rating is not defined. It will be an independent credit evaluation. Only thing is it should be workable. There is no rating parameter which has been given by the Reserve Bank of India. Second is, there will be only one rating agency who will be doing. So that is for lenders, it is important that there is a saving on cost side itself as well. Escrow account mechanism, there will be, wherever there are multiple lending institutions, there will be an escrow account mechanism, and all the payments and disbursement, repayments, etc. will be routed through the escrow account. And as I discussed, escrow manager has the enforcement mechanism for timely servicing of disbursement obligations. What are the resolution plan, the features, what any resolution plan should contain? Just give me a second. The resolution plan can have any action given by in paragraph 13 of June 2007 circular. As I initially discussed, that see this has evolved from June 7, 2013. This paragraph 13 basically states what action will be considered as restructuring, for example, conversion of debt into equity, deferment of payments, reduction of interest rates, etc. These all are covered under, except for compromise settlement. If there is compromise settlement, then it is not covered under this scheme. Again, another feature, as I discussed, additional facilities. The lenders may include additional facilities, credit facilities to the borrower to have a sustainable restructuring plan. There is some restriction also. The LIs may allow moratorium or extension of the residual tenure of the existing debt that will not exceed 2 years. Now, there is a confusion on that also. If a debt has been converted into other source of debt or another security, what will happen in that case? But presently, if it is a debt, it is understood that the extension or moratorium can happen only up to 2 years. And lastly, it has to consider all the financial parameters and sector specific ranges which has been notified by RBI. The RBI, as we discussed on 7th of September, RBI has come up with certain parameters, sector specific ranges, and it also allows, as Sonal ma'am had questioned, that for other sectors, the banks will be coming with their own parameters. They have to be incorporated in a resolution plan to be acceptable under this scheme. The scheme also permits the conversion of a portion of debt into equity or a marketable non-convertible debt securities. However, again, the amortization schedule and coupon carried on such debt securities to be similar with the terms of debt that was held post implementation of RP. Now, there is some confusion on this, some clarity is required on this account. Debt converted to equity shall be valued as per paragraph 19C and 19D of Prudential Framework, which says in case of listed companies, this valuation is again in the books of banks. So in case it is listed companies, it will be on the market price, and if it is an unlisted company, it will be on the latest accounts, which should be not more than 18 months old audited accounts, and if it is more than 18 months old unlisted shares will be valued at ₹1. Debt converted to other debt securities will be collectively valued at ₹1 in the books of banks. Again, this is where the banks have to take a hit on their balance sheet. Asset classification, additional finance to meet interim liquidity to continue will be classified as standard. Now, if an account is an NPA on invocation date, now, oh sorry, not invocation date. Invocation date, it has to be standard on implementation date. And between invocation date and implementation date, some banks have given interim finance. Now that will be considered as standard till implementation, and definitely after implementation it will continue to be standard. Normally in NPA accounts, if a lender provides any facility, it will be an NPA only. But in this case, such classification will not be there. Standard classification to be retained in, or in case the account slips NPA between invocation and implementation, it will be upgraded to standard, which I discussed. Are there any clarification that anybody requires on this? There is a complete silence. I'm actually getting lost.
हेलो हेलो हेलो
हेलो,
आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
आ रही है मैम।
हाँ, अच्छा सर, मुझे एक चीज पूछना था कि जैसे अगर मेरा अकाउंट 1 सितंबर 2020 को अगर एनपीए हो गया, बिकॉज whatever amount I was standard on 1st March, but 1st September 2020 ये NPA हो गया because of my like whatever dues were there, because now the amount moratorium period is over.
जी
हम हो ही नहीं सकता ना NPA,
वही पूछ रही हूँ।
हम हो ही नहीं सकता सितंबर में NPA।
नहीं, कब होगा NPA?
मैम अक्टूबर 31 तो बेयर मिनिमम है, क्योंकि आप 31 आप 1 मार्च तक तो 30 दिन ही ओवरड्यू हो सकते हो।
नहीं, मेरा पहले से ड्यू चला रहा था 30 डेज का।
हाँ तो
जनवरी 31 में मेरा ड्यू था। मान लो कि मेरा इंटरेस्ट वाज ड्यू ऑन 31 जनवरी व्हिच आई डिडंट पे।
30 दिन से कम होना चाहिए।
फरवरी 2 महीने हो गए, तो मेरा अगस्त सितंबर 30 तक तो ड्यू हो ही जाएगा ना। हाँ, सितंबर 30 तक। हाँ
मैम, मैं रिस्पॉन्ड टू इट।
हाँ
मैम देखिए, आपने कहा 2 महीने ऑलरेडी ओवरड्यू है, तो ये स्कीम आप इन्वोक ही नहीं कर सकते।
2 महीने नहीं, सॉरी 1 महीना, जनवरी 31 को वो ड्यू था मेरा इंटरेस्ट, तो 1 महीना ड्यू था और 2 महीना और हो गया। हाँ ठीक है, अगस्त अक्टूबर तक चलेगा। नहीं, अगर मैं ये सपोज एग्जांपल गलत हो गया, अगर 1 नवंबर को
जी
मेरा अकाउंट अगर एनपीए हो रहा है, बट इन्वोकेशन मेरी डेट अभी इन्वोकेशन नहीं हुआ है प्लान, इज इट पॉसिबल?
मैम, तो आपका ये जो आपको मैंने यहाँ पर आपको शायद कवर किया था, एक बार ध्यान रखेंगे। इन्वोकेशन एलिजिबिलिटी है तो कि आपका अकाउंट जिस दिन इन्वोक करते हैं उस दिन स्टैंडर्ड होना चाहिए। तो यदि आपका 31 अक्टूबर तक, आप इस केस में यदि आपका अकाउंट एनपीए हो रहा है 1 नवंबर को, तो इन्वोकेशन हैज टू हैपन ऑन 31 अक्टूबर।
ओके
So this is the point. This is the point which I'm
31 दिसंबर तक जो डेट है, लास्ट डेट है, दैट इज ओनली व्हेन यू आर लाइक, अगर आपका पहले कोई अकाउंट मतलब एकदम से 1 दिन का ही ड्यू चल रहा हो, 1 दिन से भी ज्यादा ड्यू नहीं चल रहा, नो ड्यू चल रहा था पहले।
नहीं, हाँ मतलब पहले का ड्यू नहीं चल रहा हो एग्जैक्टली, या आप क्या कर रहे हैं कि जो आप पेमेंट ना पिछला वाला पेमेंट कर देते हैं, ओवरड्यू नहीं रखते हैं, तो आपका 31 दिसंबर अगेन इज द एंड डेट,
बट उसके पहले इन्वोकेशन के समय आपका अकाउंट स्टैंडर्ड होना चाहिए।
बिल्कुल, अप टू 90 डेज इट कैन गो, 91 डेज नहीं हो सकता।
बट आफ्टर स्टैंड, हाँ, ड्यूरिंग आफ्टर लाइक इन्वोकेशन टिल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, अगर उस समय अकाउंट एनपीए हो सकता है, तो फिर बाद में वो रिस्टोर हो जाएगा। अगर
बिल्कुल
जैसे एग्जीक्यूशन जब प्लान इम्प्लीमेंट होता तो वो स्टैंडर्ड हो जाएगा फिर।
जी मैम, बिल्कुल। और यही एक बहुत बड़ा एडवांटेज है इस स्कीम का, जो कि विच इज यूनिक। नॉर्मली आप देखेंगे, और शायद वेरी वेरी यूनिक फीचर ऑफ
हाँ
दिस स्कीम। नॉर्मली इट इज नॉट हैपनिंग कि आप जैसे June 7, 2019 का सर्कुलर आप देखेंगे,
हाँ, उसमें
जो
10% पेमेंट होगी तो ही होगा एटलीस्ट,
10%
एक
और
साल,
एक साल विच इज विच एवर
और
इज
एक साल
लेटर।
whichever is like
और एक साल में भी वो ये कंडीशन करते हैं कि 10% पेमेंट होगा होगा जिसका एक साल फ्रॉम द लास्ट, मतलब विद द लॉन्गेस्ट मोरिटोरियम। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, एक पीस ऑफ लोन इसका 3 साल का मोरिटोरियम है, तो 3 साल प्लस 1 साल हो जाएगा। तो लॉन्गेस्ट मोरिटोरियम ऑन इंटरेस्ट एंड रीपेमेंट विच एवर इज लॉन्गर, उस मोरिटोरियम के बाद 1 साल बाद आपका स्टैंडर्ड होगा। तो विच इज वेरी वेरी यूनिक इन दिस scheme. And definitely if we consider what is the background of this scheme, so considering that it is very effective also, it was desirable. Then coming to post implementation monitoring, it says there will be a review period. There will be a review period commencing from the date of default by the borrower during the monitoring period with any of the signatories. Now, we'll come one by one. Post implementation, this is after implementation of my resolution plan. Once the resolution plan has been approved and it is implemented, this monitoring commences. If a borrower defaults with any of the signatories of ICA, then a review period of 30 days will start from that date. But this will be only during the moratorium period. What will be the moratorium period? Monitoring period. Monitoring period will be starting from the date of implementation of resolution plan, and it will be later of 1 year from the date of commencement of repayment of interest or principal, whichever is later, of the credit facility with longest moratorium period, and by when that at least the 10% repayment of the residual debt has happened. Now, the June 7, 2019 circular for making account standard, this was a condition. During this period now, this period has been defined by RBI as the monitoring period, and if any default occurs in this period, then a review period will trigger for a period of 30 days. What are the consequences? In case of default with any signatory of ICA, at the end of review period, the account would be classified as NPA with all LIs. During the review period, the borrower can rectify the default, but if it is not rectified, then whether there is a default with signatory, non-signatory, if it will be considered as default, and NPA classification has to be done by all the lenders. Or this is another condition, earlier of date of implementation of RP or the date of classification of NPA before implementation of RP. Now, if the account, for example, if we take the example of what Rekha ma'am was telling, if the account becomes NPA between invocation and implementation, for example, the account becomes NPA on 1st of December, my invocation happens on 30th of November, then implementation happens on 1st of January. In this case, if there is a default which continues over review period, the NPA classification will be done from 1st of December. Otherwise, if the account was standard on 31st December, on 1st of December or 1st of January, the date of implementation, the account will become NPA from 1st of January. Fresh restructuring, if there is any fresh restructuring has to happen on a failure of resolution plan implementation, then it will be taken up under the June 7, 2019 circular. This cannot be re-invoked. Once it is invoked, implementation has happened. If there is a default, then it will go back to June 7, 2019 circular. Now, as we were discussing, the expert committee came up with some certain financial parameters based on which, based on the recommendation of the expert committee, RBI has notified those parameters with certain changes on the dates of implementation. And as Chandiji was discussing, we have been in last 3 classes, we have been discussing on the financial parameters, financial statement analysis, ratio analysis. Now, these are the financial parameters which have to be considered in any RP. Again, there are sector specific issues which we will be discussing in the later slides. So these financial parameters have to be included in the resolution plan which we submit to the banks. They are, as I told you, they are mostly based on expert committee recommendation, and RBI is notified only for 26 sectors. In beyond 26 sectors, they said that RBI has prescribed the current ratios and DSCR and WDSCR to be more than 1, but 1 and 1.2 I will be discussing. But for other ratios, they have said that it should be driven by the bank itself. They can set their guidelines based on their wisdom and their experience. Now, the 5 ratios which have been covered in this circular are total outside liabilities to adjusted tangible net worth. Can anybody share the formula of total outside liabilities to adjusted tangible net worth? Hello? Hello?
Total liability less shareholders fund is equal to total outside liability.
Okay.
And then tangible net worth is shareholders fund itself. Share capital plus reserve and surplus.
There are 2 things which I would like to share.
If adjusted, then we have to add back unsecured quasi equity or quasi capital what if it is available in balance sheet, or any capital infused by directors as an unsecured fund or unsecured loan to the company.
I will discuss this. Let me have some more views. Is there any other suggestion on this? I will discuss one by one, and why it has come in the RBI this circular. I will coming in the definitions itself, because they have been defined by the bank in its circular itself. Second is the total debt to EBITDA. Third is the current ratio. I think this we have discussed at large in all our classes. The debt service coverage ratio and the average debt service coverage ratio. The 26 sectors which have been given, I will share the list of those 26 sectors, and for other sectors, RBI says that current ratio, DSCR and average DSCR has been prescribed, while permitting the lending banks or the lenders to have internal guidelines on TOL to adjusted TNW and total debt to EBITDA. Now, these are the definitions which have been prescribed by the Reserve Bank. The ratio of total outside liability to adjusted tangible net worth, how it has been defined. Total outside liabilities is sum of long-term debt, short-term debt, current liabilities, and provisions, deferred tax liabilities. Provisions and deferred tax liabilities. Now, Can anybody identify what is missing in this total outside liabilities? See, the non-current liabilities are not included in this, which I believe is only a typographical error. Non-current liabilities should also be included in the total outside liabilities. Then adjusted tangible net worth has been defined by the Reserve Bank as tangible net worth net of investment and loans into group and outside entities. If there is an investment into a group entity or an outside entity, to that extent that net worth will be adjusted. Second is the word tangible. In this, the intangible assets from the net worth will be removed to come up with a tangible net worth. So tangible net worth, net of investments, loans in group and outside entities. Again, as I told you, and we were discussing in last 3 classes, the purpose of the ratio and the user is very important while having a definition. Here, RBI has, or the expert committee has defined it this way. Only thing is, as I told you, apparently there is a mistake of non-current liabilities. Total debt to EBITDA, again, it has been defined. The ratio of total debt to earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. Total debt is sum of long-term debt and short-term debt. Now in this case, again, total outside liabilities and adjusted tangible net worth, if we see, we were discussing about the loans from or quasi equity from the directors or the promoters. In this case, it has been considered as debt or outside liability, because some of long-term debts, the quasi equity or the loans from directors, promoters have not been considered as equity. This is again a fallacy in normal circumstances. The total debt is sum of long-term debt and short-term debt. EBITDA is profit before tax, interest, finance charges, depreciation and amortization. Current ratio is very normal, current assets to current liabilities. Again, a nuance has been created for defining the DSCR. The DSCR has been considered as ratio of sum debt of net cash accruals and interest and finance charges divided by sum of current portion of long-term debt and interest and finance charges. Now, current portion of long-term debt is appearing in the balance sheet as repayable in the next year, ensuing year. They are not considered whatever you have paid. Whatever is payable in next year is coming for calculation of DSCR. Again, a nuance which has been brought into the definition of DSCR, which I think we discussed when we were discussing the DSCR in our classes. We discussed this matter and Chandiji explained how it should be considered. So this is what has been brought in by the Reserve Bank. The average DSCR again is over a period of loan, the sum of net cash accruals, interest and finance charges divided by the sum of loan, current portion of loans which will be there, and interest and finance charges over period of loan. Are there any queries on the any of these definitions? These are the operating instructions, practically how the scheme will be operated. The sector-specific thresholds to be mandatorily considered in each resolution plan of eligible borrowers under the framework. In case sectors are not concerned, current ratio and the DSCR should not be less than 1 and average DSCR should not be less than 1.2, and other ratios will be as defined by the lenders. The resolution plan to consider pre-COVID performance and the impact of COVID-19 for assessment of cash flow projection. This is very important. What you were doing pre-COVID and by what time you will be able to achieve this post-COVID position so that the cash flow projections are made. Graded approach may be adopted by the lenders, mild, moderate, and severe. Accordingly, comprehensive restructuring may be required for severely affected sector units. Now, in this case, RBI leaves to the wisdom of lenders to decide in what cases there is a mild impact, in what cases there is a moderate impact, and in which cases there is a severe impact of COVID-19. And if there is severe impact, then it should be deep restructuring. More funds or more debt may be converted to the equity. So this way, RBI in this case has given a lot of leeway to the lenders to decide upon how they want to restructure a debt or account. This again, some more operating instructions which have come. The time frame for achieving the target ratios on continued basis is QL and adjusted TNW by March 31st, 22, except where equity infusion is envisaged. Wherever the equity infusion is envisaged, the lenders may phase the achievement of the target ratio according to their wisdom. All other ratios have to be achieved by 31st March 22. The compliance of each prescribed ratio will be monitored as financial covenants on ongoing basis and during each credit review except for average DSCR, which will be worked out for the entire loan period at the time of consideration of RP approval. Now, can anybody share why this average DSCR is considered only once and why not every time? Rinki, can you tell me? Okay, see, average DSCR is calculated for the entire period of loan. Once it has been approved, there is no need to monitor it. Only thing is they have to monitor the other four ratios, which are on year-on-year basis. The breach, if any, is to be rectified within reasonable period as per the loan document. And one more important aspect has to be understood. They have to be monitored as financial covenant. Now, what is financial covenant?
The key financial parameter which the company has to achieve or maintain.
What is the relevance? Why it is being worded as a financial covenant? Because this is the key parameter. In any case, they have to be achieved.
So, if there is any deviation in the covenant, then bank may consider it as a violation of RP.
One is this. Second is this: if you see any loan document, if anybody has gone through any loan, financial covenant is, if there is a breach in a financial covenant, it actually brings that event of default into play. Default in a financial covenant actually results into an event of default. And that's why the importance of financial covenant has been made here by the bank, that it will be considered as an event of default, which may again have other repercussions which we discussed in the earlier classes.
सर एवरेज डीएससीआर भी तो ईयरली मतलब अगर अपने बोलते हैं कि मिनिमम डीएससीआर इतना आना चाहिए, तो उस पर्टिकुलर ईयर में जैसे एक साल रिव्यू के बाद तो पिछले साल का क्या प्रॉफिट और कैश एक्रूवल रहा है और रीपेमेंट रहा है, उसका डीएससीआर तो निकाल सकते हैं, तो वो भी तो मैच होना चाहिए जो आप कोवेनेंट्स बता रहे हो। इसमें
सर मेरा थोड़ा सा डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियन हो सकता है। मैं आपको एक बात बताऊं कि मेरे को लगातार 3 साल 4 साल मेरे पास मेरा डीएससीआर था 4, ओके। अब और मेरे प्रोजेक्शन में भी था 4 था मेरा डीएससीआर, बट उसके बाद मेरा जो डीएससीआर आ रहा है वो 1 आएगा। अब एवरेज डीएससीआर फॉर बैलेंस पीरियड में फॉल डाउन बिलो 1.2 और द प्रिस्क्राइब्ड एवरेज डीएससीआर।
बट फॉर द पर्टिकुलर ईयर ऑफ कंसिडरेशन जब आप रिव्यू कर रहे हो उसमें तो आप उसको देख सकते हैं ना सर।
नहीं, जिस साल आप बना रहे हैं उसमें तो प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है ना सर।
नहीं सर, अगले साल जैसे अगले साल रिव्यू हुआ
जी,
तो जो फाइनेंशियल ईयर गया है, जो ईयर एंड हुआ है, उसमें आप चेक कर सकते हो ना जो आपने प्रोजेक्शन दिए थे डीएससीआर के वो मीट हो रहे हैं कि नहीं हो रहे।
अगेन दैट इज अ रिव्यू व्हिच इज देयर, उसमें एवरेज की जरूरत नहीं है, वो डीएससीआर क्या वो दैट इज द डीएससीआर रिक्वायरमेंट। तो डीएससीआर रिक्वायरमेंट तो ऑलरेडी उन्होंने बोल ही दी कि आपको मीट करना ही करना है। एवरेज इज ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम ना सर।
हाँ नहीं, मैं तो पर्टिकुलर ईयर की बात कर रहा था।
ईयर का डीएससीआर तो है ना, जो आपने कंप्लाई करा है एवरी डे लिखा हुआ है ना, ऑल अगले अदर देन एवरेज डीएससीआर। तो एवरेज डीएससीआर तो ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम है, अदर देन दैट तो चारों कंप्लाई करने ही करने हैं every year, and that is why my question was कि why average DSCR has been removed. So that was for the one time exercise. Once you have defined that there will be average DSCR, every year का DSCR you have to monitor and it should be compliant. Here we have tried to bring what are the ratios which have been prescribed and for what sectors. The prescribed ratio of TOL adjusted TNW is 10 for real estate commercial, 7 for real estate residential, 6 for aviation, 4.5 for auto components and corporate retail outlets, and so on and so forth. So if you see the range of TOL and TNW is 10 to 3. Practically the range is 4 to 3. But very few, there are outliers 4.5, 6 and 7. There are outliers. Similarly, total debt to EBITDA should not be more than, again, we have brought ratio wise from 12 to 4. But again, if we see, it is between 4 and 5. For most of the entities or most of the sectors which they have defined. Current ratio, they have gone to say that it should not be less than 1 for all sectors except aviation and roads. Aviation, auto manufacturing and roads. And current ratio, why it has not been mentioned for aviation etc., because they are not valid for, it is not considered to be valid. And auto manufacturing, if we recall in our one of the classes we discussed about just-in-time inventory. The committee and the Reserve Bank has taken cognizance of this just-in-time inventory in auto manufacturing sector, and that's why they have not considered a current ratio of 1 or more in this sector. Current ratio for aviation has been taken as 0.4, and for auto manufacturing and roads, no threshold has been prescribed. DSCR should not be less than 1 for all sectors except aviation and trading, wholesale trading. For wholesale trading, the interest coverage ratio has been prescribed instead of DSCR as 1.7. The interest coverage ratio should not be less than 1.7. Again, in this case, interest coverage ratio has not been defined by the circular. For some reasons, they have missed it. They should have defined this also. Similarly, average DSCR should not be less than 1.2 for all sectors except aviation and trading wholesale. For wholesale trading, they have prescribed a single ratio of 1.7 as interest coverage ratio. For all other sectors which are not covered by this circular, it says the current ratio should be 1 and average DSCR should be 1.2 or above. And the lenders have to make internal assessments regarding TOL and ATW and total debt to EBITDA. It may be pertinent to understand that RBI has also permitted the lenders to bring some other parameters, specific parameters, which they want to be incorporated in the resolution plan. But these have to be there mandatorily. For road sector, TOL and ATW and total debt to EBITDA has not been prescribed. One more important feature is that parameters for the real estate sector have to be evaluated at project level. This was given by the expert committee, but that has not been considered by the Reserve Bank of India. As I initiated my dialogue when I said that most of the recommendations of the expert committee have been accepted and approved and notified by the Reserve Bank of India. This one deviation that was glaring, which I could understand. Now, coming to some shortcomings, or these are our internal view. I would like you people to come up with some solutions to it. The change in terms of sanction is what is happening. When I was sanctioned a loan, I was prescribed, I was assessed by the lender thoroughly, and they prescribed certain ratios, certain covenants for doing the business. Now, with this resolution plan, the terms of sanction are getting changed. I can understand that some terms of sanction are changing in case of any resolution plan, but if it is tougher to have these ratios, then how a business will be able to achieve that too within a very, very short given period of time. That is by 31st March 2022. So this is one hardship that we could perceive. One size fit all approach by RBI. RBI said the ratio of this particular ratio has to be applied. Now they are ignored the size, the geography, the subsector. For example, a sector is industry is operating in northeast, and if it is under stress because of the COVID, it may not be possible for that same, and it may be differently. It should be treated differently from the other industries in the same sector. So that type of approach will be very, very challenging for some of the industries, some of the units. And if they are not met, then they will be leading to, it will be led to rejection. The resolution plan may not be accepted by the lenders. Similarly, certain ratios may not be applicable for particular type of loan. For example, current ratio may not be applicable where a restructuring is done for term debt only. The third is we have to make a cash flow projections. Still there are things, times are uncertain. Certain sectors are still not operating or operating at a very, very low capacity.
Sir, challenge पता है यहीं पे ही आ रहा है, especially in the auto and the hospitality sector when you're talking about, if you guys are asking them to make projections, so they're not clear about projections on what basis. So वो काफी issue आ रहे हैं अभी आज की date में, especially in hospitality and auto.
Ma'am, yesterday I was discussing with somebody, for example, health, fitness, this gyms, etc. They are still not allowed. The
Right.
entertainment industry is still closed.
Is still closed. So making projections on what basis and how to
Exactly.
justify that?
So see, that's why I'm coming to see there are still things for certain sectors are still not ripe. They are unable to project. We don't know what will happen, how it will happen, how I will be able to operate. For example, in hospitality, you are perfectly right in saying so. When we were operating banquets with something like 800 people or 700 people, we were having large banquet halls with a capacity, this type of capacity. Now, if I am operating with a 50% capacity or a 50%, it is unviable. It practically my AC, the cost of AC will be very difficult to recover for a hall of 800 people operating at 50 people. And I don't know in future when it will be happening. In some cases, I can tell you in one of the cases and which I am dealing with, a hall can be at the most divided into three. Now, into three means about 233 people. And if it is only occupied 1/3, and see, entries may be difficult because I may have only 2 entries. I may have 3 partitions, but I may have only 2 entries. It will be very, very difficult proposition to make such things, projections viable, whether the project, I don't know when I will be allowed to have those type of people gatherings and functions. A lot of restriction on functions is also there. Still, so this is what we wanted to highlight and share with you, with the team, that in some cases it is premature. We cannot make cash flow projection with reasonable, even with reasonable certainty.
हाँ, मतलब all the main sectors who impacted, जैसे auto हो गया, hospitality हो गया, hospitals हो गए, so these are the main sectors. और तीनों sectors में अभी कहीं कुछ viability है ही नहीं, तो projections कैसे submit होंगी? That is a bigger challenge with these three sectors, I personally feel.
Yeah, ma'am, and definitely I subscribe to that, whatever you are saying, and that's why we have brought this issue for the discussion with the team. It is a very short time to achieve the targets. See, the last date of implementation of a resolution plan comes as per August 6, 2020 circular. I'm sorry, the date is error. There is an error in the date. It is August 6, 2020 circular works out to June 29, 2021. Because up to 31st December, they have to accept, they invoke the scheme, and beyond that, within 180 days, it has to be implemented. It means June 29, 2021, any resolution plan can be implemented. Now it leaves only 9 months to achieve the target ratios. Very, very difficult proposition, particularly in places or in groups or in entities where these ratios were not prescribed earlier and they were not achieving these type of ratios. Similarly, there is an ambiguity for uncovered ratios, uncovered sectors. There is an ambiguity on multiple banking. Who will prescribe? For example, if all banks, I am having 5 major banks as the consortium members, because after the merger, practically every major bank has become a lender to entities where there are multiple lenders are there. Now, with all 5 banks having different internal policies, different ratios, it will be very, very time consuming and challenging to achieve the closure of resolution plan or approval of resolution plan. Implementation will come thereafter. First is the resolution plan has to be approved by each of the lenders. And if they go back, even if we agree that it will be approved by the lead lender, and the parameters which have been defined by the lead lenders have to be taken or accepted by each of the lending institutions. And if each of the lending institutions are having different ratios, they'll have to go back to the board for seeking deviation, because once the board is approved, the deviation has to be approved by this board itself. So there is a lot of ambiguity on that. Definition of adjusted TNW is a bit restrictive. As we discussed, adjusted TNW, it says that the investment into the own entities or other entities should be removed, particularly in overseas acquisitions. The debt is raised into the Indian entity and to subscribe to the shares of the target entity. Now, if this happens, then the ratio will get vitiated. So that has not been considered. Ambiguity in definition of TOL, as we discussed, total outside liabilities misses the inclusion of non-current liabilities. Impact of financial difficulty is not defined. The circular does not specify the consequences of breach of any of the parameters. It says financial difficulty, but it is not defined what will happen. And within short period of time, it says it should be rectified within short period of time. Now, how I will rectify my DSCR in a short period of time is something, or TOL and TNW in short period of time is a bit difficult. The period has not been defined. So there is a lot of ambiguity on that part.
So I have one query.
Ji.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir, in case of adjusted tangible net worth, do we have to, if company is listed company, then in that case, do we have to add back current market cap or share cap? We have to only do calculation for share on the basis of share capital.
Sir, it has to be on the basis of books of accounts.
Okay.
Yeah. What we have to take equity capital, preference capital, then we have to take the reserves and surplus.
Right, sir.
Okay. Then again, we have to reduce the, as I shared, the value of intangible assets.
Right, sir.
And then we have to reduce, in this case, for adjusted, the investment, which is any of the group entities or outside entity. The investment has to be reduced.
Okay.
So these are some frequently asked questions. One more question that is very important, which I wanted to highlight. See, a very basic question I like to ask from the people here. You see, a lending and a borrowing arrangement is between two parties. Why we require RBI to prescribe the restructuring? If a lender and a borrower agree for a restructuring, why RBI has to come into play? This is a very, very, very basic question which comes to the mind. Can anybody throw some light on this? Rekha ma'am? Rekha ma'am, are you there? Sunal ma'am, थोड़ा सा बताइए.
सर मतलब I may not have much of a clarity on that basis. मतलब जून का सर्कुलर तो थोड़ा सा क्लियर था, इस सर्कुलर में थोड़ा सा क्लैरिटी चाहिए होगा अभी.
नहीं मैम, it's a general question. Why you require once restructuring, once I have entered into an agreement between मतलब as a borrower I have entered into an agreement with a lender.
Right.
Okay, now there is a problem which the lenders also accepts that there is a problem into the system, whatever reasons, which is beyond, and definitely lenders will be going for forensic audit if they feel there is a foul play into my business.
Okay.
They can always go for that. They are having the stock audit, etc., from time to time, which they can also make the frequency they can increase. Now, in this case, the basic question that arises is if there is a stress and the lender admits that there is a stress into account, and why I require the intervention of RBI for restructuring? Why not that myself and the lender sit across the table and settle it? This is the problem and this is the way we want to settle it.
Probably looking into the amount of NPAs which have happened in the past, and especially in the PSU banks, the lenders are little selective about what needs to be done. So I can see probably that could be one of the reasons, because there are a huge amount of NPAs which have happened with the PSU banks in the past.
Anybody else? I fully agree on that, but I would. Is there any
it's
other
just
view?
That they don't want to avoid that. They want to avoid the risk as such, getting into any stress account right now, doing anything much into the stress account right now. And plus उन लोगों के पास सिक्योरिटी काफी होती है, तो वो OTS का डिस्कशन तो मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम ये लोग अवॉइड ही करते हैं कि ठीक है अगर सिक्योरिटी है, why would we talk about OTS or restructuring as a part of it?
नहीं मतलब देखिए मेरे ultimately the restructuring is beneficial to both, that we will agree. It is beneficial for both the borrower as well as the, because economy as a whole it is better. This is my understanding or my view, my take on the restructuring, that restructuring is better for economy as a whole.
Absolutely.
Because if the business unit is running, then at least there is an economic activity for the asset, and you are able to derive the economic benefit of the asset, particularly in the manufacturing sector.
Right.
So that is where the basic question that comes, and this is a question that I have seen somewhere. Why we require intervention from
मेरे को तो ये लगता है कि probably because of the NPAs which have happened, so banks don't want to take a call on anything right now. So that is the reason they're not very comfortable looking at restructuring as a perspective. Anybody else might have a different view.
Nitin, would you like to share your views? Or anybody else? One more thing, ma'am, I would like to just share in this case, my view. See, it's a public money.
Right.
And there will be a chaos if individual lenders are allowed to restructure these loans. And there may be some vested interest which may play into the system. So, in order to have a checks and balances, RBI being the regulator to the banking system or the lending system, its intervention is required. Similar to the IBBI in case of, for example, IBC.
Right. Yeah, absolutely right, sir.
So, because there is a public at large is
public money involved.
Public
absolutely.
money is involved. It is not
agree, sir.
A lender specific. If it is a single lender or its own money, then definitely there is no regulation is required. For example, if I as Sunil Gupta lending to anybody and I want to restructure that loan, I don't require the approval of the RBI. But banks being regulated entity by the Reserve Bank, then definitely their action have to be regulated. Any more question that you have? I will share this. It is actually, it includes what Resurgent can do. There are certain frequently asked questions as well. If there are any questions on this, I would like to answer. It's already 10:48. Okay, team, thank you very much. I hope I could give some input or some insight on whatever we were on this today's subject.
Thank you, Sunil ji. Thank you
If
so
there are
much
any
for your time,
questions-
sir.
If there are any questions, I will be very happy to answer, and otherwise I'll close this session today. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. We'll share the slides very soon, and all the best for the exam. And
Thank you so
today,
much, Sunil sir.
ma'am,
Thank you,
as before closing, let me get some names who will be giving the questions. Can anybody?
इसमें तो सर मेरे ख्याल से इंसॉल्वेंसी टीम को बोल दीजिए, वही सारे क्वेश्चंस आपको चारों बना के दे देंगे.
रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग का मैम कुछ डेट से भी कुछ लोग दे शुड कम अप. डेट टीम कोई वॉलंटियर करेगा? बॉम्बे ऑफिस मैम, आप थोड़ा सजेस्ट करिए ना प्लीज.
I think that team say we can ask Manish to make it. Manish will be able to make it. That में जो नए मनीष आए हैं, Manish will you be able to make it?
No.
बना लेगा? Questions ही बनाने हैं भाई.
No, ma'am, I'll try, but ठीक है मैम, I'll make it.
Okay.
हाँ सर, that team से मनीष बना देगा. और जयपुर टीम से कौन बनाएगा गाइस? अभिषेक बना देगा 5 क्वेश्चन. लास्ट टाइम अनुपमा ने बनाए थे.
मैम 10 क्वेश्चन चाहिए मेरे को कम से कम, बिकॉज वी रिक्वायर 50 क्वेश्चंस.
अच्छा, मनीष 10 चाहिए, ठीक है. एंड अभिषेक बना दोगे आप 10? जयपुर टीम अभिषेक है? Anybody else wants to volunteer from Jaipur team?
Anshika?
Anshika?
Anshika is not there. Anshika is doing something else. ठीक है, एक अंशिका का नाम ले लेते हैं.
ठीक है, अंशिका का आप लिख लीजिए. बॉम्बे से तस्नीम, you will be able to make 10 questions.
तस्नीम है?
तो ज्वाइन तो किया था उसने, पता नहीं अब मे बी शी इज मूव्ड ऑन. बॉम्बे टीम हु कैन मेक और कौन बना सकता है? आई थिंक बॉम्बे टीम में वो तो जयपुर से वो बना लेगी.
अभिषेक आर यू देयर? People have started their own things.
हाँ, अभिषेक है नहीं है मेरे ख्याल से.
चलिए मैम, I'll send the message to people. Let me close this.
ठीक है सर, मतलब एक बॉम्बे टीम से ले लीजिएगा, एक कैलकाटा टीम से ले लीजिएगा. कैलकाटा टीम से नितिन बना देगा. नितिन, you will be able to make 10 questions. नितिन, कैलकाटा टीम.
Nobody is there.
ये सब म्यूट पे चलेगा.
यस मैम.
10 क्वेश्चन बना लेगा भाई?
जी मैम, बना लूंगा.
ठीक है, तो ये
10 क्वेश्चंस फॉर्मेट आपको पता ही है, वर्ड फॉर्मेट में देने हैं.
जी सर.
ठीक है ना, और आंसर लिखना नहीं है, आंसर को हाईलाइट कर देना है बस.
जी जी, वो मैं आपको फॉरवर्ड कर दूंगा.
वैल्यूएशन
टीम,
वैल्यूएशन टीम या सुप्रिया को बोल सकते हैं या सागर को बोल सकते हैं. आइदर ऑफ देम कैन मेक इट. सुप्रिया, सागर, प्लीज दोनों में से कोई एक कंफर्म कर दो कौन बनाएगा.
मैं अलग से बात कर लेता हूँ मैम, हो सकता है कि दे हैव स्टार्टेड देयर जॉब.
ठीक है, डन सर. तो 3 तो हो गया. राइट सर, थैंक यू सो मच.
ओके, थैंक्स.
राइट, थैंक यू सो मच.
भाई वो कर ले यार, मेरे भाई तू ही कर पाएगा, मैं नहीं.